Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Matt McCarthy, and this is Sunday Journal. Well, it doesn't have to be an Olympic year to get into curling. Everybody's favorite Winter Olympic sport is played here locally on the Cape. The Cape Cod Curling Club in Falmouth is kicking off its 8-week Learn to Curl program in January, and I'm joined this morning by Todd Benedict. He's the incoming president of the Cape Cod Curling Club, and also here today, Jeanie Yaroch. She handles communications for the organization. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Sunday Journal.
Well,
You're welcome.
Talk a little bit about the Cape Cod Curling Club as a whole. I mean, so many people know about the organization being here on the Cape, but some people might not know that there is a curling club here on Cape Cod. Just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the organization as a whole for those who might not be aware of what you do.
Well, it's interesting because most people that aren't aware of the curling club are just like me. When I joined, I didn't know there was a curling club. My wife drove by one day and saw it was there, and here I am, and I'm hooked for life now. It's a lifelong sport.
That's funny because I was thinking so many people, I was wondering how they get into curling, and I was going to ask you both how you got into curling, and it seems that a lot of people just kind of get into it on a whim.
Every member of the Cape Cod Curling Club has been asked that question one time or another because it is almost everybody has a unique story on how they got into curling. In my case, my father was a semi-pro hockey player when I was just a young tot, and we used to watch, if some of our older listeners might understand it, there was a show called Wide World of Sports, The Agony of Defeat. And every year they showed a segment on curling. And my father and I sat there fascinated, not knowing he was exposed to the sport through hockey and knowing a few Canadians, but we didn't know what we were watching, and we were fascinated by it. And it always stuck in the back of my head. And in 2005, when we moved to Cape Cod, my wife happened to drive by, going on her way to Highfield Theater, because that's where we're located in Falmouth. Saw a sign, Cape Cod Curling Club, came home and told me that there was a curling club. I saw an ad in the paper a couple weeks later for an open house, and 9 years later, I'm a lifelong curler.
No kidding. And Jeanie, what about you?
So the other definition of curling, the other meaning people associate with that, is curling your hair. My hairdresser actually got me into curling. She was doing a charity event, and I begged her, "Oh, please, can I try it, please?" And like most people who join, I was hooked from the first moment.
And you mentioned, so many people in your organization, they have one story or another as to how they got into curling. How many members do you have at the Cape Cod Curling Club?
We have 233 adult members, and 180 of those are active curlers. Approximately 50 are social members, either curlers who have pretty much aged out of the sport, which is kind of an oxymoron because you don't really age out of curling, but for one reason or another don't curl anymore. They attend our social functions and things like that. We have a very active junior program, and we just go all the time. The ice I have a game tonight in a few hours.
And, so you're holding these Learn to Curl sessions, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. People who might be interested in getting into curling, maybe they've seen it on TV, maybe they've really liked it during the Winter Olympics. Talk a little bit about that. I'm assuming this is not the first time that you've held these events, and how have they been received by folks who have gotten interested? As
the sport grew, from 98 when the Olympics became a demonstration sport, or the curling became a demonstration sport in the Olympics, the interest in the United States has just boomed. So what happened was we had a lot of new members in, and we realized that the level of play was being a little bit diluted simply because there was so many new people that didn't have the skills. So we came up with a program what we call Learn to Curl, and it's an 8-week program where people sign up, go through an 8-week intense 2-3 hours every Sunday, and at the end of that they're full members of the club and welcome to join our leagues and compete.
And this would be a good question for both of you who obviously, at some point you had to pick up the sport. Would you consider learning how to curl, would you consider it a difficult sport to pick up? I mean, what's the learning curve for people, or do you think that everybody kind of learns at their own pace? I mean, what have you heard from folks who have picked up the game? Did they think it's easy? Did they think it's hard? Does everybody kind of get it a little differently?
I think that that's the beauty of curling, is it's very easy to learn. You can become reasonably good at it in very short order. But it's impossible to feel like you've truly mastered it. So there's just this almost one stone after another kind of appeal for me personally, and I think for a lot of other people too, that I did that well, let me see if I can do it again, or I didn't do well on that, let me try it. But I think for the people that start out, they can go home after just an hour or two and feel like, yeah, I'm getting better. I get this, I understand it, and it's just a matter of practice.
So a little easier than heading out to the links and trying to shoot par on 18.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the learning curve is steep. From the moment you step on the ice until you get relatively proficient is very rapid.
Now, what do you normally hear from people who are interested in curling?
Like me, once you step on the ice, you're hooked. It's a fascinating sport, and one of the beauties of the sport that we play is the fellowships, and it's a gentle person's game. It's a handshake before the game, a handshake afterwards. The winners buy the losers a beverage, and you're expected to socialize after a game. So it's not only the competition, it's the fellowships that develop and the friendships. I have developed friends that I'm social with on and off the ice. It's just a wonderful sport. And as Jeanie said, the level is you pick it up very quick and you can take it as far as you want to go. It's like being a Saturday morning golfer. If you want to pursue it, you can be a professional. Or if you want to just play socially, you can go out and play once a week with the foursome and have some fun.
I'm Matt McCarthy. You're listening to Sunday Journal. I'm joined by two members of the Cape Cod Curling Club, Jeanie, Yaroch. She handles communications for the organization. Also here, Todd Benedict. He's the incoming president of the Cape Cod Curling Club. They're hosting their annual Learn to Curl sessions. And, you had mentioned something a little earlier. You talked about how curling seems to be such an all-ages sport. I would assume that kids who might be interested in picking up curling could come to these Learn to Curl sessions as well?
Absolutely. We have a active junior program. We have juniors, and I'm not quite sure the ages of where that starts, but it ends at 18. I think it's 12 to 18. And before that, compared to Little League, Pee-wees, Little League, we have a junior rocker program. And some of those children are 6 to 8 years old, up to 12. We have 17 in the Little Rocker program, and we have 15 in the junior program right now.
Would you say that you can just see them get hooked too? I mean, you talk about how everybody you've seen who's come into the curling club, when they try it, they get hooked. Would you say the same thing about the kids?
I think even more so. The kids that we see are so enthusiastic, and I think we have a couple that have bright futures if they pursue the sport and don't get sidetracked by careers, and the work always seems to get in the way of curling.
Yeah, the real world.
Yeah, the real world. I'm retired, so I've become a curler full time.
The other night on my women's league, we had one of our junior curlers, a teenage girl, 15, 16, sub in because somebody couldn't make it. She started curling when she was in first grade, and I said, "What made you, interested in this?" She said her mother brought her over there for an intro to curl. She stepped on the ice and she said, first grade, I just knew that I loved it.
This past year, we saw the Winter Olympics in Sochi this past February. We're almost a year removed from that. It's all over television. People, it's kind of become the cult favorite, the kind of the sport that everybody really gets into for those 2.5 weeks. Do you see an increase in interest around the time of the Winter Olympics?
Absolutely. Our Learn to Curl program that just concluded 2 weeks ago, we had 31 people. We usually cap it at 28, but we took on a few extras just so they could get in. And the Learn to Curl program that we are starting on January 18th has 7 spots left. So we're at 21 already. So if you're interested in curling, go to our website, which is capecodcurling.org.
And is that the best way to learn about the program?
Absolutely. And learn about the club, contacts. We're an open club. For example, there's league play tonight. We encourage people to come down, stop in. There's always somebody in the warm room that's just more than happy to share what we have.
And you talked about the league play. You guys host tournaments throughout the year. I mean, this is pretty active, and this is also year-round, correct?
Well, we curl. Our league play is October through March. In the summer, we have 2 weeks of what we call summer spiel. And it's actually morphed into closer to 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
It started as 2 weeks, and then we've added a junior. And it culminates with an international wheelchair event.
And, it's funny because you think about curling, it's very much a winter sport, but of course Cape Cod is very much a summer destination. So, how does that, make it a little different for your organization? I mean, clearly, there are people coming, there might be interested in curling. It's a winter sport, but it seems like you guys are kept busy throughout the summer as well.
Absolutely. There's, like I said, it's probably 4 weeks of curling now. It started as 2, what we call our summer spiel. We get teams from all over North America, and I just received a call the other day. There's a team from Scotland very interested in coming this year. And one of the reasons is a resort destination in July. There's not too many places in the world where you can get on the ice and curl in July.
You can get on the ice and go to the beach right after.
And go to the beach or go to the bike path. We're right on the bike path in Falmouth.
How have you seen the sport grow over the years? I mean, you talked about you've been involved, Todd, since 2005. How long has the Cape Cod Curling Club actually been in existence, and how have you seen the club grow, and how have you seen the sport grow over your time involved?
In a short period of time, my 9 years, it's grown tremendously. The leagues were actually, our curling committee, which actually runs the on-ice league play, is constantly trying to find slots and free up ice time for more and more people, because I just told you that 31 people are coming out to learn to curl. They're coming right into the leagues starting in January. After our Christmas break, they will be eligible to play in leagues. So there's 30 more people coming in. And if you do that every 6 months, you have to create more and more play. And it's all because of TV exposure, the uniqueness of the sport. I like to compare it to what fly fishing went through in the 80s. It becomes a fad, and once you get on the ice, you're hooked.
And Jeanie, I know you handle a lot of the communications for the organization. As the sport continues to grow, and as the club continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger as a result of that, what does that mean for you on the communication side? It seems like you've been pretty busy at it.
We have been busy. I'll tell you, our wheelchair curlers, Todd mentioned a minute ago, have been a big reason for the word spreading, because we've got the biggest wheelchair curling program in the nation at Cape Cod Curling Club, and they have been to Sochi, Russia twice in the past 2 years, once for the World Championships and once for the Olympic Games. And that gets the word out a lot. But this Learn to Curl, we are so happy to have this club growing like this. And we've done something even different this semester. We've taken each of our new Learn to Curlers and we're mentoring them. We're pairing them with an experienced member of the club, because we want them coming in. We want them in the leagues and joining. That would be the best news in the world, is that we needed to expand our club and find more ice time for all the curlers that we have.
And, the ice time, I would imagine, can probably be a bit of a challenge, because there aren't too many curling clubs around here, even though it is the Northeast, which is one of the bigger regions for curling in the country. I mean, not too many options for folks who want to curl. Where is the nearest curling club to Cape Cod?
The nearest curling club is in Wayland, Massachusetts. There is one in Brookline, not too far away, but so that's an hour and a half away is our nearest club. So if you want to curl, Cape Cod is it.
I'm Matt McCarthy, and this is Sunday Journal. We're talking with Todd Benedict. He's the incoming president of the Cape Cod Curling Club, and Jeanie Yaroch. She handles communications for the organization. Unfortunately, we're starting to run out of time here. For folks interested in the Learn to Curl sessions, the Learn to Curl program, wondering if you could just talk a little more about that and what they can expect and what type of commitment folks might have to make. What can people expect to learn about the Learn to Curl sessions?
Well, the biggest commitment they're going to have to make is 3 hours on Sunday afternoons. It's going to start at 4 o'clock this year, so it'll be 4 to 7 thereabouts. Unfortunately, that may conflict with the football game, but if you want to get on the ice, that's the way we have to do it. But really just a pair of soft shoes, comfortable clothing, and we will provide all the instruction, all the equipment. We will get you on the ice as soon as we can. We give you some basic training. We get you into games, because games is what people really want to play, and that's where the excitement is, making shots and missing shots, and it all comes into play. And within 3 or 4 weeks, it's an 8-week program, within 3 or 4 weeks, they start to get the hang of it very quickly, and you can see the smiles start coming when they start making shots, and most of them are hooked.
And, you had mentioned the game, so they come, they can learn to curl, and then you have a big league play. Talk a little bit about your league play. I mean, is that probably the biggest thing that you do as far as matches go, league play?
Yes. We have 5 mixed leagues, which are men, women, females, males, obviously. We have afternoon leagues, evening leagues. We have men's leagues. We have one men's league, one women's league. We have a competitive league where more experienced curlers put their own teams together and compete. There's all kinds of in-house bonspiels. This past weekend, we just had our Chris Mix curling competition and social dinner afterwards on Sunday night. We had a big dinner. It was a tremendous event.
And just in regard to the Learn to Curl in particular, we did something new this past fall where we had a bonspiel, which is curling speak for tournament, for the Learn to Curlers. And it was a terrifically successful event. We took 2 new curlers and paired them with 2 experienced curlers, because each curling team has 4 members. And then we played against each other. And it was just a great way to give these Learn to Curlers a more realistic view of what it's like to be on a team and to take the game through 8 ends and to make the shots and to sweep the shots. And it really made a huge difference in how they experienced the whole Learn to Curl program.
And I know the club is very involved in charitable endeavors. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about charitable stuff that you might have going on around this time of year, as well as throughout the year, because I know you host tournaments for charity, et cetera, et cetera. Wondering if you could talk a little bit about what the club does in the community.
Absolutely. Well, we are a 503c3 nonprofit. Annually, because of some scheduling problems this year, we did not have it, but every year for the last 8 or 9 years, we've hosted a curl for charity. And last year, we raised $24,000 for the charity.
Impressive.
Yeah. It's a big effort. We've had gym curling with the local schools, where we actually send members of our club to the schools. We've provided equipment for them, and they do it with rocks that we've invented to have wheels on the bottom of them, and then they play their championship games. We bring them to the club to actually play on the ice under supervision, and that's been well received. We do a lot for the community.
Thank you so much for joining us here today on Sunday Journal. We've been talking with Jeanie Yaroch from the Cape Cod Curling Club. She handles communications, as well as Todd Benedict. He's the incoming president of the Cape Cod Curling Club. Their Learn to Curl program is starting up on January 18th. You can learn more at their website. Thank you so much for coming in this morning, and enjoy it as you welcome new curlers into your club.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Yes, so thank you very much for having us, and I'd like to wish everybody out there good curling and stop down and see what we have at Cape Cod Curling Club.
Well, I'm Matt McCarthy, and this is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.